3, 2. Right. Good morning, everybody. How is everyone? Yeah? Very well. The sun is shining. Faces are shining. Look all wonderful from up here. Brilliant. Okay, so this is day 2, so welcome to day 2 of the Bled Water Forum. And yesterday, we heard powerful messages from leaders, ministers, scientists, and water professionals from all across the world. From the opening remarks from the First Gentleman of Slovenia, Dr. Aleksandra, and the First Lady of Lithuania, Diana Nausėdienė, through to our discussions on water climate nexus and the implementation of the COP Water Declaration, and a common theme emerged. Water is the defining challenge and the opportunities of our time. We heard repeatedly through the panel discussions and even discussions beyond and on the hike that we attended, we heard repeatedly that addressing water challenges will require stronger cooperation, greater innovation, and willingness to translate commitments into action. And this is where the real magic happens. So last night at the Bled Castle, during the European Water Award ceremony, we were reminded that innovation is already happening. And I must tell you, some of the technologies that were displayed and for the public to see and understand were amazing. And these solutions were easily to implement to deal with water stress, water reuse, and better management of water and the environment. That is one of the unique strengths of the Bled Water Forum. It brings together policy, science, innovation, and implementation in one place, and that is very, very rare. So this is something that we will continue to nurture as we progress. It creates a space where ideas can become partnerships and where partnerships become action. So yesterday's discussions focused largely on infrastructure, governance, and climate resilience. Today, we continue that journey by turning our attention to another dimension of water that is equally important to people. Beyond infrastructure, the policy and the water influences our health, well-being, and quality of life and longevity. So the question we will explore this morning is simple but profound. If water is fundamental to life and giving it enough attention to its role in helping people live healthier, longer, and more fulfilling lives. So we kickstart this morning by looking at Slovenia, Bled, as a living laboratory for water, health, and sustainable tourism. So it's now time to begin our first panel, Blue Health and Longevity. We all want to live longer. And this discussion explores the role of environments in supporting human health, well-being, and longevity with insights from tourism, wellness, and Aspire environmental science, nutrition, and water culture. I would also like to recognise the municipality of Bled as co-organisers of the Bled Water Forum, especially as a destination actively developing sustainable tourism, water responsibility and well-being, and new approaches connected to drinking water and hospitality. So an important part of this discussion is drinking water itself. Drinking water has often been overlooked with the spa and wellness systems, yet it sits at the heart of health, hydration, minerals, taste, and public trust and education. This is why the BWF's work, including BWF Young and its educational programs, are so important. Bled Water Forum is not only opening discussions, it's helping to create implementation platforms, education models, future collaborations, and international activities through its network. So I would like to welcome the Blue Health speakers. I will assure you this panel will be very interesting, and there'll be a lot of takeaways for you. So first, I would like to invite Csilla Mezősi, Secretary General of the European Spas Association in Belgium. Welcome. Thank you. Also, Dr. Reza Soltani, President of Institute of Tourism in Belgium, he will be joining us online, plus Mr. Helmut Burtscher-Schaden, Environmental Chemist and Global 2000 Friends of the Earth, Austria, and Miss Aleksandra Bykowska-Derda, Department of Human Nutrition and Dietetics, Faculty of Food Science, Nutrition, University of Life Science, Poland. Also Miss Ruriko Suzuki, Water Sommelier and board member of the Japan Aqua Sommelier Association. So, welcome. Is that all of us? Yeah. So if we could first start with Ruriko's presentation, please.
Distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ruriko Suzuki and water sommelier from Japan. Today, I would like to introduce Japanese onsen culture and connection to nature, wellness, and daily life. Thank you. Please enjoy the video.
Japan is home to approximately 28,000 hot spring sources and nearly 2,900 hot spring resorts. Located at the convergence of multiple tectonic plates, Japan has a highly active volcanic landscape. Combined with abundant rainfall and complex geology, this environment gives Rizito a remarkable diversity of hot springs across the country, each with its own unique mineral character and regional identity. The history of hot spring culture in Japan dates back many centuries. Records of hot springs can already be found in the Nihon Shoki, one of Japan's oldest historical chronicles compiled in the 8th century. From the 17th to the mid-19th century, people developed a tradition known as toji, long-term stays at hot spring resorts. During quieter agricultural seasons, visitors would spend several weeks there, cooking their own meals while restoring both body and mind through immersion in hot spring culture and nature. The essence of Japanese toji culture is not simply bathing in hot springs. It is about staying in hot spring communities and quietly restoring body and mind while immersed in nature. Traditionally, people would spend several weeks at onsen resorts, preparing their own meals, taking walks, resting, and bathing multiple times throughout the day. It was a way of life that felt less like travel and more like living within the rhythm of the hot spring community itself. In recent years, this tradition has evolved into a modern wellness concept known as New Toji. New Toji is a contemporary Japanese approach to wellness that combines hot springs with nature, local food, and the culture rooted in each region, while encouraging longer stays in onsen communities. It offers an opportunity to step away from the pace of everyday life, slow down in nature, and reconnect with oneself and the surrounding environment. In this way, the traditional spirit of toji, spending quiet, restorative time in nature, continues to be valued and carried forward in Japan today. In some Japanese hot spring regions, the practice of drinking thermal water, known as insen, has long been incorporated into wellness traditions and toji culture. Depending on the mineral composition, hot spring water has traditionally been associated with digestive comfort, relaxation, and the maintenance of daily well-being. Even today, insen continues to be practiced in certain regions of Japan. However, not all hot springs are suitable for drinking. Insen is permitted only at selected hot springs, where water safety has been confirmed. Through official water quality testing, and management standards are maintained locally in each region. In Japan, onsen culture represents a unique water culture that connects geology, water, history, and human life. Water is not only something we drink. It has also long supported relaxation, balance, and harmony between body and mind. If you ever have the opportunity to visit Japan, I warmly invite you to stay in an onsen region and experience this living culture for yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruriko, for a wonderful introduction, and the invitation to Japan. It looks amazing with their water culture. And I guess over to you, Csilla. Would you like to take the podium?
Good morning, and I hope you love the sunny day, to start the day with the fresh air, with sunshine, with the green. That's how we feel Slovenia. Thank you very much for the introduction, and we know that we are really in the best case in Europe if we talk about health tourism, longevity, and prevention. So some of the highlights what we will talk today. And as you have seen, we are not only talking, but the tourism industry and the cross-sectoral healthcare and health tourism, we provide also information, but the experience, we serve them. So I'm delighted today, after the business of water management, to enter to another chapter, how we serve people, how we take care of the healthy lifestyle of people, and how we extend the lack in the public healthcare system. We have contracts with health insurance companies, but we have more and more private payers. And as you see, we are not talking about blue health, we are doing, and we created a new initiative, a healing water initiative, where we try to explain for the public and also on professional events the other meaning of mineral water and to understand the nature in a different way. So bringing the Europe's mineral water and the awareness of health and water, thanks to our excellent cooperation to the Slovenian Tourist Board. You see, you are always with us, Feel Slovenia. And I would like to introduce our communication leader from the European Spas Association, Mr. Istok Altbauer. Stand up, please. You need an applause. So this healing initiatives is more than 5 years, and you see, this is dedicated to the mineral water and to explain, to educate the contact between nature, health, well-being, so what we will discuss, the blue health. And the longevity concept, what we talk today, it's about a sustainable, evidence-based, and different from any other pharma-oriented or IE-oriented or supplement-oriented kind of well-being concept. Our base is on the natural sources and the natural remedies. May I ask for the next slide? Through the Bled Water Forum, in this teamwork, let's say, shows that longevity is rooted in a much basic elements. The oxygen-rich air, the cleaning drinking water, but even better if it's a naturally mineralized spring, and this, which support metabolism. Okay, thank you. Also to repair the cellular health, and it's a long-term prevention. So educated the young experts, that's so fundamental, and that's why we are happy. Marco, come back, please. Don't escape. First of all, congratulations to the winners yesterday for the water management innovations. And 2 weeks ago, on our Health Exchange Summit, The winner was Bled Water Forum, the global young academy in the category education, because it's very important that we get the young people and professionally educated for anything which is related to the healthy water. So an applause to Bled Water Forum and for the young global talents for the concept. And so, yeah. So let's go to the topic. What does it mean, blue health? Or what does it mean for us working in a health tourism, serving also public health? So its impact that water environments on our body and our minds, so mental health is also extremely important. Of course, our main task is, or our basics are thermal water, mineral waters, but of course lake, rivers, seas. We treat also with healing muds, so therapeutic peloids. Thank you very much for yesterday that you highlighted many times the climate health. Of course, physical activity you can do in a nature, you can do in a water, which is much more efficient. And of course, the water and our psychological, how do you say, the impact on our mind, it's also extremely important. And Europe is facing, of course, a lot of challenges what we have to treat, which means the aging population, and that's why we are talking about longevity, how to live long but healthy. The rising of chronic diseases, even medical technologies and supplements are growing, but nature is still the most efficient one. Burnout, stress disorders, sleep problems are daily task, and luckily it impacts the management who has money to spend the holiday or to be with us in a medical spas. And the critical point is the growing pressure of the public healthcare system. So we try to help for people, they don't find the right solution and the quick solution, long-lasting solutions to visit our health resorts and to find the healing properties with us. And the most important is without side effects. By the corona, we learned about solutions, but we had to learn very hardly and painful also about the side effects. And that's why we recommend the health resorts in Europe to visit us, and not only for rehabilitation. It was an old image to serving only the seniors, but through the growing presence of prevention, we have a much younger public and visitors, clients in our resorts. Just to give you some figures, across Europe we have more than 1,400 spa and health destinations. We have an amazing infrastructure, but the most important that we have very educated, very experienced medical staff and colleagues with us and professionals. We have protection and legislation for natural remedies, how to protect it, how to implement it in our regulations. And what nobody does, only in Europe we have the clinical evidence studies, so we improve in any kind of health related problems, why the mineral water, why the treatments in the thermal water, why the whole environment influence your body. So this is the competitive advantage of Europe, and we work with many overseas markets, of course. So medical spas, health resorts are part of the public healthcare system, and we are partners of the medicine but without side effects. So if we talk, how do we see the potential? If we talk to our colleagues in 20 countries in the European Spas Association, from Iceland to Bulgaria, from the Baltic countries to Italy, and of course in the heart of the Central Europe with the amazing presentation to feel all senses with the nature, Slovenia. We see a very clear trend. I would not call trend, but it's a movement that people want prevention and not only treatments. We would like to have the nature much more involved in even in our holiday, in our daily activity, and technology is growing, but we don't want to have everything with devices. And beside the program, we would like to have services, a guided experience, how to live healthy and to take it at home and to extend the healthy holidays in the daily practice. So we don't want to have the promises, we want to have the evidence. And that's why we are very concentrating how to publish evidence-based medical studies and to give the clients also the result. They can see what they achieve in 1 week, what they achieve in 2 weeks of staying in a health resort. So, let's say what we need to happen is a stronger recognition of the natural therapies. Yeah, okay, that's my last slide, but it's okay. Much more cooperation, because Europe has this unique asset, and also to the workforce. I think a great potential is in the future also for the corporate health to implement these kind of services, health-oriented services for the companies, to stay healthy, to have less sick leaves, and to be more competitive. This is also one of the main tasks in the European Union strategies. And also the healthy lifestyle. So these are the two subjects where we are working hard also on EU strategy plans. And my closing words are the strategic opportunity and why we put water, okay, maybe I can go back. Water on the first place. And thank you for sharing the water management importance and to combine it with the healthcare system and to see this ambience as one global asset, to work on it and to protect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Csilla, for that wonderful introduction into Europe's spa and wellness. Just a quick question before we move to Aleksandra. Using water therapeutically for centuries, right? In an age of advanced medicine, digital medicines, healthcare, why do water-based wellness experiences remain so relevant today?
First of all, the whole subject of medical spas, healing destinations rooted in the Roman times. So Ptuj with the presentation is one of the places. As I mentioned, many medical studies is a must. For example, on our last event, Health Exchange, we were talking and we were highlighting the lifestyle disorders. That's definitely, it's a growing market. Diabetes, obesity, mental health. So this is the new orientation also in the medical spas, in the health resort. My opinion also that climate health will have an extremely big growth. So not only the hot summer, but generally the negative ions. I would say that's the driver for the next period in the health tourism industry.
Fantastic. So I'd like to move to Aleksandra in the sense of human nutrition and dietetics. If you like to.
Right here, okay. Thank you very much. First, I would like to say thank you so much for inviting me here, and I hope, well, that's basically really great that I'm coming after. I am a dietitian and I'm an academic faculty at Poznań University of Food Sciences. So I'm teaching dietitians, future dietitians, and also I started to really, in about 2022, really work with or on water, which is very much a macronutrient, which we need a lot of it, but it's mostly forgotten. So this is what we have been, first I will, well, we went too far. Okay, so what I wanted to show from the beginning is the adequate water intake. What is adequate water intake according to Food Safety Agency? This is intake of water from foods and from water and fluid-based foods. So when we look at this, we have water from food, which is around 20% out of entire 2 to 2.5 for healthy populations liters a day. So once we take away that 20%, which is in, for example, fruits, vegetables, or soups, we have another adequate water intake from fluids, which is about, for healthy adults, 1.6 to 2 liters a day. Of course, this number is basically between women and men. There are many different health circumstances where that water may be increased or even that recommendation may be decreased. So this is a lot of, well, it is 2.5 kilograms, right? So we can find a lot of nutrients in there. Okay. And this is another thing which I wanted to show, is how increasing the water to the recommended values will help, and what has been shown already, how that changes with the human health. So for the first thing is that drinking at least 2 liters of water per day may reduce the risk of kidney stone formation by 25%. So this is a lot of costs in clinical settings, just to increasing and making sure that the water is available for everyone. Then also the cholesterol, right? So the urinary creatinine, which is basically the marker of hydration, that will also even associate with the LDL cholesterol and the triglycerides. And that's another study here that the people who drink water less frequently has a higher level of Campylobacter bacteria, which is very, it's not a good bacteria in our microbiota. So increasing water intake to the recommended values, another very important thing is that it will change our microbiota substantially. So those are the points with increasing water drinking throughout, just for the health, right? Just the drinking water. But then when we look back again on it, I wanted to show you another part, is that we have that water within the beverages, right? The total drinking water. But also we have that the water which we are drinking. And we can drink tap water, we can drink mineral water, we can drink bottled water, carbonated water. And here what we are saying is like mineral content, right? If we have like 2 liters of water which we are taking, mineral content could be pretty substantial for the human health. So can the water be considered a significant source of daily mineral intake? Well, there is this, calcium and magnesium in the diet. And so we have the recommended value of calcium and magnesium for 35 and 265 milligrams per day, and calcium is 800 and 1,000 milligrams per day. This is very often quite difficult to obtain, because when we look at the sources, this is not what is usually eaten by our population, unfortunately. So getting that calcium and magnesium up by intake of water may be very, very interesting for dietitians and for overall health. Okay? So what I looked at is the total water hardness, which is basically something which you can find in any tap water. So there can be a very hard water, or it can be very soft water. And the WHO recommends 50 to 500 milligrams in drinking water of like water hardness, right? So of the calcium carbonate. So this is a really large difference between 50 and 500. So some of the studies show is that drinking hard water, so maybe unfiltered water straight from the tap, which is good, like, and healthy and monitored, which actually can increase the intake of calcium and magnesium by 30% in the diet. So we have all 1/3 of the minerals, right, intake recommendations just from the water. But they have to drink the recommended value and very hard water, okay, instead of the soft water. The thing is with the hard water, well, we are getting it in different areas, for example, in the tap water, differently. But also what we do with the water, with the tap water afterwards, that will also change the hardness, right? So we can filter it, then it will have the softness, it will be soft, it's not going to have many minerals, or it could be boiled and then it will get into salts and it's not more absorbable by humans, it just stays as a precipitation. So this is very important, I think, and it gives another way. It's not just drink more water, as we are saying, mostly in dietetics, it's, yeah, drink water, and you can have actually the hard water and you will increase the intake of calcium and magnesium this way. Okay, so how does that happen? This is, another thing is what we found is that, not we found, but I was reading about it, is low intake of calcium may affect blood pressure, and it actually may lead to high blood pressure. Okay, so low intake of calcium will cause high blood pressure and may lead to some cardiovascular diseases also. So we found, we made a little systematic review a few years ago, and we went through all the studies with the influence on mortality from cardiovascular diseases and that association with the total drinking water hardness. So we went through quite a lot of studies, and we found 25, which were basically which we analyzed qualitatively, and then 3 studies just got into that quantitative synthesis. The problem with that is that it's really difficult to get that big population and see really the difference. There are so many points which influence, you know, the mortality, as you can imagine, that it's difficult to get that studies. But what I wanted to really quickly show is out of all the 25 studies which had some influence on risk of cardiovascular diseases, they found in red, they had no relation. So all the green ones shown some relation between drinking the hard water areas or the drinking water, hard drinking water, and decreased risk of cardiovascular diseases, mortality, or just getting the. So it's very important to further get the research on it, and it has a lot of potential. Okay, so this is what it has been shown, the clinical uses of natural mineral water. So we have the digestive health. Of course, you need some, to put some claims, on the water, you need a lot of clinical studies to do it. It has to be very fully researched. So we have the digestive health, which I think everyone has already had the possibility maybe to drink or will have here. The bone health also, that's the calcium-rich minerals, or the electrolyte replenishment. So those are those clinical uses, which is in standard medicine, which could be used in the clinical setting. Here, as a Central Europe and Eastern Europe, I put some picture of our places to drink the mineral water, which is found in different sanatoria or where people can actually sit in nice places and drink water. This is like a tradition, I think. The water has then some clinical values, right? They have a really high mineral content, so you're not supposed to drink too much of it. So that's actually in Poland, but I know around Europe, Central Europe, there is quite a lot of them. Okay, so coming up to conclusions, the recent evidence suggests that the higher total drinking water hardness is associated with lower cardiovascular mortality in many observational studies. From a clinical nutrition perspective, natural mineral waters can be used strategically. For example, calcium-rich waters for people with low calcium intake or specific mineral waters to support the health. And it's very important also that increasing water intake, not the sugary drinks, not the water drinking, that will increase the health of population. And at the end, I would just like to say that our university, Poznań University of Life Sciences, is one of the organizations which is competent by is on the list of competent organizations by food safety agency, and this is, I think it's really important to get that water, the high mineral water, to get into extensive research and further the clinical basis of research and get this done. Thank you very much.
May I bring you some good examples? Because we are in Slovenia, we have a lot of different mineral water, and there are a lot of evidence-based studies. So if you see one of the bottle, Radenska, this is a resort in Slovenia specialized for cardiovascular treatments, and you see calcium, magnesium. Then it's a magic water, Donut MG. You will not find any water in the world with that amount of magnesium, 1,000 milligram per liter. So daily use, that kind of small bottle, if for athletes, maybe 2 bottles of that. And we have really a lot of evidence-based studies because it's integrated in the public health. In Rogaška is even a 5-star medical center, and after cancer care, so oncology treatments for gastroenterological problems, this is one of the best resorts in Europe.
Fantastic. That was so informative. Really, really informative. Thank you. So just before we move on to the next panelist, I just wanted to bring a bit of context to this. In regards to the mineral intake and the studies that you've done, different regions, considering tap water with higher calcium and magnesium, the studies are definitely showing a more positive outcome for better cardiovascular health with these minerals in the water. In your professional opinion, we are inundated on the television and the magazines of supplements, that you must have as part of a healthy living diet. You touched upon, having 2 liters or maybe 3 liters, depending on your physiology. In your professional opinion, would you say that if you managed your water intake with the correct balance of minerals with a healthy diet, you could potentially not take supplements for your calcium and magnesium intake?
I think, this is totally, like, you would not need supplements completely. No, I would, it's very important to say that healthy diet with water intake, which also is a part of healthy diet, that will definitely should be sufficient for a healthy life and health.
Fantastic. So that really links back to Czilla's work in the health and spa elements of bathing in the waters, enjoying the waters, but then also drinking water cures to enable the water to really take effect medicinally, but then also to give a good balance of mineral intake and healthy outcomes of the bodily functions. I think that there, and I'm sure the audience find this quite fascinating, because where I'm from in the UK, the only way that we look at water in this level of magnesium, calcium, and mineral intake is over a cup of tea. And this has divided the country of the north and south. But really, tap water for us in the south is very rich in calcium and magnesium, and tap water in the north is lower. And I have actually read some studies linking cardiovascular disease to our friends up north, which is more prevalent. And this could be due to diet as well, but I think there's more stronger evidence and more stronger links to this. So absolutely fascinating, and hopefully the audience has learned something truly amazing of simple minerals in water and helping healthier diets. Okay, so we're going to move over to Dr. Reza, the President and Institute of Tourism. Are we online?
Yes, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome. You may be on mute, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, great. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful and greeting to the lovely people of beautiful Slovenia. Very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Today I will talk about drinking water and destination marketing, branding and development. Drinking water is often overlooked in destination marketing, yet it can be a powerful element of a destination brand, visitor experience, sustainable strategy, and the public health reputation. As the travelers become more health conscious and environmental aware, access to the safe, clean, and sustainable drinking water is increasingly influencing the destination choice and satisfaction. Why drinking water matters in destination marketing. Enhance the visitor experience. Tourists need reliable access to the safe drinking water, particularly in the warm climate, adventure destinations, and urban tourist hubs. Destinations that provide free and accessible drinking water create a more comfortable and welcoming visitor experience. Example is Rome, with many free water fountains, or Singapore promotes numbers of the public water refill stations and highlights the quality of its tap water, contributing to its reputation as a clean and visitors-friendly destination. Support sustainable tourism. Providing drinking water refills stations help reduce the single-use plastic bottles, aligning with the sustainable tourism goals and attracting environmentally conscious travelers. Benefits include reducing plastic waste, lower carbon footprints, cleaner tourism sites, and positive sustainability image of the destination, which is quite important. I will talk about two separate kind of the offering free drinking water and identifying themselves with the high quality water. So in the case of the Rome, for example, they are offering free drinking water, and in the Singapore, as I mentioned as well, which all the researchers, it shows that the tourists and the travelers' memory, it recalls, they share it, and they have very positive impact, including commercial wise on helping the destination to get the tourist back, because memory of your travel is important in the marketing and in the destination. The other things is like here in Colorado, they are printing beautiful reusable water bottle. As you can see, this is also a souvenir, and it reminds you of the Colorado, and again is an important tool for destination marketing as well. The way that the destinations can, if they have a good drinking mineral water, a famous one like a Pana, for example, in Tuscany, as you can see that also it really helps the destinations and for the image, of course, and the kind of the tourist that you want. With the over tourism and with the tourism situation that we have in 21st century in those years, most of the destinations are looking more for the specific visitors and not just the mass tourism. Of course, everybody wants the richest one, and they want that the tourists spend most of the money in their destination. So it is important that you attract the right tourists and the visitors or guests to your destination. Definitely, water and the quality water can be one of the tools that they can use. Also, as you can see, the water, it symbolizes sustainability, nature, pureness, cleanness. Here is a good example of that's a Greek water company. They advertising their water, but as also you can see, it associates with the health, with a nice beach, sport tools, windsurf, badmintons. And so probably the Ibiza will not use such advertising because they want to give a different image. Is a party town, and people are going out and so on. But certain other destinations that they want to show the image as a health destination, as a calm, as where the families spend their money, and wellness, in fact, which also actually is attracting more and more wealthier and high spender tourism is important. So water definitely can be an important tool for the marketing. Unfortunately, it have not been used quite well. At the end, I just want to remind a big difference between the culture of the American culture and the Europeans. In US, if you have been or you know that once you visit a restaurant without asking, they will offer you a free of charge full glass of water, tap water, drinking water without charging you. In Europe, it doesn't exist. In fact, we had just 2 weeks ago on the news headlines on lots of medias, including the CNN and the BBC and so on, that the American tourist sued a resort or a hotel in north of Italy for not offering them free drinking tap water. And they just charge her €8 or something like that for a bottle of water. She said that her emotions and psychological status was damaged, and she sued that resort. So you see that how far the water is important, actually, if it gets the proper attention. Unfortunately, we have to see those kind of the news that we hear more about the water and the importance. So anyway, the Italian court refused her, rejected her case, and she could not sue the resort. But it shows that how important the water is. So water can be really used as a tool for the destinations, and that's very important. And we should give, in the tourism industry, we should give more attention to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Reza. That was super interesting in the sense of if we were to look back and look at advertising at holiday resorts, etc. Normally, you know, when I was growing up, there was a lot of Marlboro adverts everywhere, and that wasn't good. And then you see a lot of alcohol adverts all across. But you do definitely see this shift now of advertising water brands, and that's inclusive for everybody, from children to understand these waters, but then also for health and tourism. And I think the access to tap waters, experienced this in Bled, I've experienced this in Paris. Being able to easily access water when you're on holiday is such a wonderful experience. And I think Dr. Reza is absolutely right. You remember this. And it reduces plastic burden, plastic waste, the cost of it, but then also the pride, the civic pride of that location, that the tap water is available, it's wholesome, it's safe, and that you can access this is super important. So we've had some really strong conversations in regards to how water can help us with our health, understanding the mineral composition, which is still not understood by so many organizations, and how this can be used. I would like to move over to Helmut in regards to, we see a lot of positivity of using waters for tourism, for health, and understanding it better. But as humans and industry and agriculture moves forward to supply our daily foods and cosmetics to clothes, etc., there is a waste stream that's generated. And how would you help us identify this and link this to where we can continually promote healthy habits around water, but then also understand that water is the universal solvent and it will attract waste materials that we put into the environment? How would you say that we could get this balance?
I think the only solution for that is to stop the input to water at the source. I think this is the clue. And I have presented a short presentation. Yeah, you can, I see it already here. To show you maybe why this is so important to come to action now. I hold a PhD in biochemistry. I have been working as an environmental chemist for more than 20 years. And nevertheless, my picture of water and water quality in relation to chemical pollutants has changed extremely within the last 3 years because of new scientific evidence that has become evident, and that's something that I want to present to you. The previous speakers have painted a beautiful picture of pristine water and a thriving tourism industry, and that picture is not wrong, but it is incomplete, and that's because of this new scientific evidence that has emerged and that forces us to rethink. The picture of clean water is cracking when it comes to this chemical pollutants, and actually the crack has become so deep, and yeah, that is really bad news, that we must abandon the idea of clean water as the rule and contamination as the exception. And I will show you how this, what the reason for this is. It has a name, TFA. Here we see the chemical structure of this molecule. And it is exceptional. It has an exceptional status within all the man-made chemicals that you can find in water. And it has been under the radar of public awareness, at least, for decades and also under the radar of regulatory control. TFA is the smallest PFAS molecule. I think you all know what PFAS is. It's this forever chemicals. But other than the other forever chemicals, most of them, TFA is extremely hydrophilic. So it loves water. It's mobile, it's persistent. It mainly forms when F gases from refrigerants or PFAS pesticides, a special group, around 15% of the pesticides approved in the EU are PFAS pesticides, when they break down in nature, because there's no known natural degradation. So that's why we talk about forever chemical when it comes to TFA. And for decades, TFA has been released continuously and has become a permanent fixture in the global water cycle. Since 2024, our investigations have found, so next slide, please, TFA in significant concentrations in every surface water sample, so really every sample across Europe, in almost all tap water samples and 2/3 of mineral water samples, and in every case above 0.1 microgram per liter. And this 0.1 microgram per liter is a central benchmark in European water policy for groundwater and logically also for drinking water. It applies to pesticides and their breakdown products, their so-called metabolites, if they are toxicological relevant metabolites. TFA meets that criterion given its meanwhile confirmed heterogeneity, so it makes malformations in the fetus and is a reproductive toxicant. Yet official reports, and here is the point, official reports still promote excellent water quality. The latest Austrian drinking water report, for example, but it's the same in Belgium and Germany, wherever you look, it quotes, as I now quote from this report, the quality is consistently excellent. And next slide, please. This is supported then by results like this. What we see is the amount of water that has pesticides or relevant pesticide metabolites above, as exceeding this limit of 0.1 microgram. But as you can maybe already assume, this narrative is misleading, because once you accept, next slide, that TFA is a toxicological relevant metabolite with all these toxicological properties, the picture, next slide changes. Because in drinking water, and this is an analysis that my organization has done, it has been meanwhile confirmed also by Austrian official monitoring, where it was a bit better, but the method was not that sensitive by the authorities, so they found at least 7% of the drinking water, tap water samples that were not contaminated above this 0.1, which is a benchmark for groundwater. Actually, that's not a good story, and I think we all do like good stories, but the clean water story is simply not true anymore. And the problem with that story is that it discourages politicians, regulators, and water suppliers from taking the measures needed to protect our health. And there is another misleading narrative that you can hear very often, at least when you are doing my job. The narrative is that pollutants are only detectable now because analytical methods have become so sensitive, while concentrations are negligible. That might be true for some harmless chemicals, but PFAS, for example, provide the opposite. For those so-called legacy PFAS, health-based drinking water limits, I'm not talking about TFA now, right? I'm talking about this well-known, very good studied, very toxic legacy PFAS. And here the water limits have been recently adopted in the US and by several European countries in the single-digit nanogram per liter range. And the US EPA stated, with regard to these extremely low binding limits, there is no level of exposure without risk of health impacts, including certain cancers. When we compare this to TFA, concentrations are now in European drinking water, groundwater, surface water about 100 times higher than the legally binding limits for those legacy PFAS. So next slide. Next slide is only a question. And to be honest, that's a question with regard to TFA. Nobody in the moment, I would say, is able to answer this question. Yeah, I can say that I personally really believe and also hope that the concentrations, even if they are quite high already, that we currently find in drinking water everywhere, and also even higher amounts in plant-based foodstuff, that these concentrations for TFA are still safe. But the data needed to confirm this are currently still lacking. When it comes to these legacy PFAS, it's different. There we know that there are hotspots in Europe where the water is not safe, where drinking this water for longer time periods has proven in epidemiological studies to decrease or to increase mortality. There are examples, for example, in Veneto in Italy, in Sweden, and of course in the US. But there we have a problem that is locally a hotspot problem. With TFA, it's something that is globally found, a chemical. Yeah? So what we do know, and this is my last point, and it's good that we know this, there is a solution to the problem. We cannot go back in time because the contamination that we do have now is irreversible. But what we can do is we can stop it to increase just by taking action at the source, by providing these substances that build TFA and these other PFAS from entering the environment in the first place. And the legal tools, they are ready, they are on the table in the European Union. We just have to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Helmut. I think this is a very important subject because it is in the environment, and we all want to achieve blue health, green areas, high quality tap waters, natural source waters that the environment provides us. However, you're right that there are definitely hotspot zones from industrial areas across Europe and the world that have produced PFAS and the other huge array of fluorine-based compounds that are very hard to destruct. From your work, how would you summarize, how can we get this information into the policymakers to help identify these areas? Because we do have the technologies. It's a very hard compounds to break, but there are technologies that are emerging, especially in the US, where they've actually put, the EPA have put, limits on PFAS and how to remove this. What would you say would be the strongest position for us to get more mobilization of technologies to help clean this up at the water utilities and the distribution?
So one point that I think is very important, we have to be very clear about the difference between those legacy PFAS, where it's correct, as you said, to talk about hotspot contamination, where we can think about, is it possible, is it efficient, do we have enough money as the European Union to clean this up? Because there are hotspots that can be cleaned or not. On the other hand, we have this globally contamination of the water cycle by this smallest PFAS that has been under the radar for such a long time. And that was the main part of my story. So there is no hotspot, so this is there. There we only can stop the substances that form this TFA chemical to enter into the water cycle by stopping producing those F gases for refrigerants, for air conditioners, and by stopping using PFAS pesticides. That's the only way to act. When it comes to those other part of the problem, where we have PFAS that are very well studied, most of the hotspots and the number of possible hotspots, or actually not only possible, we can just assume that we do have around, let me think, 10,000 hotspots from this fire foam testing places in Austria. And there, I think it's not really possible to clean that up. You can act by cleaning the water if the water is contaminating, but that's something, yeah, that is possible, which is not possible in the same manner for TFA. But cleaning, actually, there's an interesting report from the European Commission. It came out this year, and they had an unbelievable number, 1 kilogram of this fire foam. To get it out of the environment has estimated costs of between 700,000 to 60 million euro, depending whether it's in the soil or in the water. So here we have to think about how can we, what is the best way to deal with that. But the first step is to accept the problem and to be transparent about it, and then having a solid ground for taking the measures that are the most helpful ones.
This is going to be a bit of a tough question, and this is a tough subject. And this is going to be over to you, Csilla. With the amazing work that you've been doing in regards to promoting healthy tourism with the spa culture and everything else, could you see a way of incorporating what's happening globally with these super contaminants into your everyday sort of spokeswoman work that you're doing for healthy waters, healthy living? Is there some way that you could bring awareness without causing alarm and shift patterns?
I think the essential attraction of a health destination is the healthy environment. So it's not only about the healthy water, but the whole ambience and the way, for example, the privatization, let's talk about Germany. They have so very special rules, if you want, and that's about legislation, if you want to call the destination a health destination. So far away of industry, how many percentage of green landscape or old pine trees. So it's a complex. It's not only about the water, but the surroundings. Yes. And that makes the difference. Even if you make, there are rehabilitation centers in the city, but it's much efficient if you do the rehabilitation in the health resorts. And you have the added value of the natural remedies. Yeah. So that's why people want to choose this other direction. Yes. And the healthy environment. If you can open your window and you are not in a city to look to the next building, but you have these surroundings around you, it's easy to understand what means health destination. And that's what we have to protect, and through legislation, to regulation, we have to give also the standards. Yeah,
I think that was a great answer to a difficult question, but thank you. It was one that had to be asked. Aleksandra, so a question for you as well. If a government minister were to invest just €1 to the greatest long-term health benefit, what would you argue that water should be part of that investment? So Yeah. Yeah, so Minister give you just €1 to invest. What would that investment be for water? I can see.
We have a study. If you invest €1 in prevention, you save €70 in the public health. I think this is significant answer.
That's facts and figures. Well done.
I just wanted to really quickly mention also about the tap water, and that's as a dietitian, we would love to have everyone access as everyone here to healthy tap water. Yet really it is the emerging chemicals are present, and they are emerging still. We still don't know basically how harmful and what the dose of harmfulness is. And another part is we are not sure if there is a group of chemicals, how they work together, right? And also influence the health. So this is another thing which really needs to be studied thoroughly. And I don't know if there is any possibility to, at the moment, at the tap, to change and to diminish those chemicals for the users.
Thank you. I definitely do agree that further education, investment, identifying the source, but then also identifying the manufacturers that are still using these. And there are some very large companies in the world that are going through some huge lawsuits, but that does not turn around what they've put into the environment, because it's a forever chemical that they're stating. So we do have a couple of minutes, and I was just asking the audience if you had any questions, because I think some of the subject matter that we've discussed this morning all relates to your healthy drinking water habits. And if the audience had any questions, we've got only a couple of minutes before we finish this panel, so if anyone's got a question, and there's no silly questions when it comes to water. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just speak.
Yep.
I would like to ask, because when it comes to, in Czech Republic, where the source of the drinking water is 50-50 surface and groundwater, and the groundwater, so this is different than in Slovenia, but the groundwater is considered to be the clean one. That's why when it comes to monitoring of the chemical substances, it's not done because it's it is expensive. So are these chemicals also somehow tested into groundwater somewhere? Because eventually, maybe later, they will emerge in there.
Yeah, my answer from the research that I've been doing, these forever chemicals can get into groundwater, even ocean spray. There's some studies in Scotland where remote islands in the Scottish Highlands, this ocean spray has been moving across the Atlantic, and it's concentrated. But if Helmut's still online, if he has any input, we've got a couple of minutes if you'd like to.
Yeah, I could not get the question acoustically.
So the question was, in certain areas, there's a mix of surface waters and groundwaters that are used for tap waters. However, it may be perceived that groundwaters are protected, and these forever chemicals, PFASs, do not enter the groundwater as easily as surface water. What would your research and study demonstrate? Is it a universal issue of all sources, or groundwater could be protected because of its location underground?
Unfortunately, for TFA, so the smallest PFAS that is emerging in our awareness now, that's not true. There we even face higher concentrations in groundwater than in surface water, because in groundwater it's accumulating over time, and where you have high density of agricultural activity, there you can expect, and you will find statistically, it's very good provable, much higher concentrations than on average. You everywhere do have groundwater TFA in the groundwater in the first replace groundwater. If you dig very deep, then you still will find water that is free of chemicals, but that's water that was not in the circle for the last 50, 60, 70 years. So very, very water, which is still free of chemicals. With the other PFAS, which are chemically really different, so they are not that water soluble or not at all water soluble, still, if you have contamination in the soil, it will eventually end in the water. And the highest contamination of this legacy PFAS, PFOA or PFOS, you also normally will find in the groundwater because of the same reason. It's accumulating there, while surface water, it just passes by. Only exception is if you would have an enterprise that is illegally contaminating surface water. Then you would have a hotspot where also surface water has really high amounts. Yeah? Background levels, I would say, are higher in groundwater hotspots. That's important for those legacy PFAS, the big ones, the long chain PFAS, and groundwater are regularly to be expected higher contaminated for, or very often is the better thing.
Thank you for that distinction. We've only got one more minute. Over to Csilla for the last words.
Question, but a motivation, and I would like to ask, with Bled Water Forum, we signed also a partnership, and we would like to invite you also to be part of the Healing Water Initiative. It was a long way when we teach people about healthy nutrition. It's still not on the level it should be, but it will be the next long journey to educate people. Not only important what we eat, but the same importance what we drink. And the first step, I hope, will be also with the spa resort, with the health resort, where we have clients. They are really open-minded and they really willing to do something for their health, to make it understandable and to make the differentiation of the mineral waters and to be part of the healthy lifestyle.
So this is absolutely wonderful. Thank you to the panelists. And I just wanted to finish on what I've taken away from this discussion. And I think it's been a great discussion and a well-needed discussion. It sits on 4 foundations: protected water environments, safe and trusted drinking water at the tap or at the natural springs, evidence health benefits of analysis, and experiences that people can understand and value water. So thank you all.